Hello, everybody. This is Rocksteady Boxing Southern Tier, New York, and you are in our corner. This is the first in a series of podcasts we hope to bring you about a fitness program for people with Parkinson's disease. Rocksteady Boxing Incorporated originated in Indianapolis, Indiana in 2006 and has spread around the world with over 800 affiliates. Our program is located in Conklin, New York, and we've been open since December of 2016. Although we began as a for-profit organization, in 2019 we became a 501c3 charitable not-for-profit corporation. Our official name is now Punch Out Parkinson's Incorporated, and we're doing business as Rocksteady Boxing Southern Tier, New York. Our mission is to provide people with Parkinson's a program to empower them to fight back against Parkinson's disease. Our goal is to administer a program that enables members to maintain their quality of life through a regimen of exercises that include non-contact boxing, as well as a number of other modalities that transfer improvements to movement, balance, coordination, cardiovascular gains, cognitive improvement, and voice improvement, to name a few. Through these podcasts, we want you to hear from the people in our program so that you can hear in their own words what it's like to be a person with Parkinson's disease and what they are going through as they fight back. Our first episode is presented by yours truly, John Cappello, and I started Rocksteady Boxing in Southern Tier in Conklin, New York. This episode is hosted by my son, Chris, who produces podcasts for his company. I will share my journey in the program and what Rocksteady Boxing has meant to me. Let's get ready to fight back.
When did you first hear about people with Parkinson's disease and how boxing and just the physical act of working out, and specifically with boxing, helped people with Parkinson's? When did you first hear about this?
Actually, it's funny. I was in a diner and I ran into a former boss. And he asked me if I had heard about this program, and I didn't know what he was talking about. So when I got home, I went to YouTube and I found the clip of CBS Sunday Morning with Leslie Stahl. And her husband has Parkinson's disease, and he was involved in this program called Rocksteady Boxing. And as soon as I saw the program, I realized that coming from a background of physical education, personal training, coaching, other things in my professional career, it was something that I thought I could do. So I began to investigate and look for places that I might be able to see the program. So I did find a gym in New Jersey, and I contacted the coach there. Her name is Dale G. Marino, and I want to give her a shout out because she gave me a chance to come and see an actual Rocksteady class. So my wife Mary and I took a trip to central New Jersey and visited Dale's gym. And I'll never forget, she told me to be prepared to work out. She wasn't going to let me sit and watch. So I was all in. We spent about 2 hours with Dale and her fighters, and I was hooked on the program. So that was October of 2015. I immediately signed up to take the certification course in Indianapolis the next year. So we booked for July of 2016, and it was a very long time from October of 2015 to July of 2016 because I was very anxious to get involved, and I was keeping track with what was happening in Indiana. And I was counting the days, so it was a long wait. Again, when I got involved in the program, actually in the certification course, I was even more hooked because it was right out of being a physical education teacher. It was right out being a certified personal trainer. It was right out from being a coach of multiple sports, from the Pee Wee program up to collegiate program. From teaching high school phys ed to teaching preschool phys ed, everything that we did, that they did, was something that I was familiar with, except for the boxing. I had to learn a little bit about boxing.
this was not something that was necessarily radically new for you, in that you had been, since you graduated from college, involved in athletics in one way, shape, or form, from teaching physical education and being a football coach and a track coach and basketball and pretty much every sport, anything with a ball you probably coached at some point or another,
Yes.
or a hurdle or a high bar or whatever it may be, or a pit with sand. You've been involved with coaching that stuff. And probably my guess is football was always maybe the number one sport, but track and field a close second, or vice versa. But you've been involved with athletics and seeing how it helps people for, well, at that point, almost 50 years. And knowing how it can, the positives of it and benefiting people that don't have Parkinson's, because everyone you dealt with did not. But yet there's something that's inherently good and wholesome and heartwarming when you see an athlete who improves, that you work with, that you put time and effort into, and they become better, and you can see that, and you can see the growth in them. And then you did that for close to 50 years, and you still do it on and off, I know. But then you have this opportunity after you retire. Okay, I'm going to try something different, and it goes right back into this field in a way that you probably never imagined. How much of it is the same, and how much of it is different when you're working with people with Parkinson's?
Well, obviously the population is much different, but the actual coaching, training of someone is, I feel, is basically the same. The attitudes and the work ethic of athletes that I worked with in, when I was a much younger coach. I see the same effort and motivation in people who are now in their 50s and 60s and 70s and sometimes in their 80s, who have Parkinson's disease and who are fighting to be able to get out of bed with ease, fighting to get on the floor and off the floor, fighting to have more strength to be able to push a lawnmower around the yard.
Mm-hmm.
So the motivation is there, the willingness and the desire is there. Over the last 3 years, and that's how long we started the program, was December of 2016. I've asked the groups many times, if you didn't have Parkinson's disease, would you be in a gym in a high-intensity program, sweating and punching bags? And to a person, they said no.
Of course not.
And that old adage that we hear so often is use it or lose it.
Right.
The people with Parkinson's who I work with and who are working in the Rocksteady program around the world are in the same boat. If they don't use it, they're going to lose it at a much faster rate. And we don't claim to be able to cure anything. The whole idea is to be able to give them hope and give them some tools that they can handle and use to make their daily life much better. Some of the things that people have told me that make a difference to them is just, well, the biggest thing is the camaraderie among the fighters in the classes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely phenomenal. Where in some groups you might have cliques and who's making fun of who. In our gyms, it's, how can I help you? Let me put my arm around you. Let me get you help. Let me help you off the floor. Let me help you move that punching bag. Let me help you get your gloves on. It's brother and sisterly love, and it's family in each class, and it's really something to behold when you see that in action.
So you became certified.
Yes.
And then you opened up, or you started your first gym and classes here,
Right.
In Binghamton, specifically Conklin.
In Conklin.
What was that like the first time you started? How did you get the first handful of people involved in this program?
Actually, it was a lucky break because when I came back from Indianapolis, I posted my certificate on my Facebook page. And people who knew me were complimenting me and encouraging me to keep going with this. And one of my former colleagues said, I have Parkinson's and I can connect you with somebody who is the president of the Southern Tier Parkinson's Support Group. So they connected me with a man named Jim Noack, who at the time was the president of the Southern Tier Parkinson's Support Group. And when we connected, Jim put me on the agenda for a presentation in October of 2016. And my wife and I went to the Endwell Methodist Church and did a presentation in front of 60 people, many of whom were people with Parkinson's disease. So we show a short video, and then I shared some exercises with them, and we ended our presentation, and I had 14 referrals on that very day to get to become part of the program. And through that original 14, I probably still have about 12 people in the program that are still there from 3 years ago. So we started with 2 classes. Each class started with 3 people. And now we have 5 classes, and we have about 8 to 10 people in every class.
Talking about classes, so what is describe a typical class that you would do when people come in? And I know there's different levels depending on the severity of the disease, but if you could just describe a typical class that you run.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the point about the different levels. Although we modify it for people who are suffering from more challenges, we basically try to keep it as close as possible to the same exercises. So we'll have a warm-up of some kind. I use jump rope, I use calisthenics, I use music we dance to, we use whatever, we go for a walk because in our gym there's a place we can walk. So we try to get them warmed up. We'll stretch. We'll have a series of events that we might go through that might include work on the cognitive part of Parkinson's that's getting affected. It might go on voice that's getting affected. It might go on gross motor ability. It might go on fine motor ability. It might work on memory. So we have a variety of activities that we would use. And of course, the biggest favorite among every class is to put gloves on and hit a bag, because this program is a non-contact, person to person. So we try to pound bags as often and as many as we can. So that's what a class looks like. We might end with some stretching. We always have a circle that we find a quote for the day, and we cheer and we send everybody home.
So you're not pairing them off in a ring and letting them have at it?
I think they'd like it at this point, but no, we don't do that.
How often do they ask for that?
Actually, they don't ask for it. What I see sometimes is
Does someone slip a punch in? Oh, sorry
well,
about that.
Yeah, if I say, well, we're going to shadow box, let's say face the mirror, we're going to shadow box, you have 30 seconds. I'll look up and there'll be 2 people who are shadow boxing facing each other, and I'm always, folks, just be careful, just be careful. So after 3 years, some of them feel pretty comfortable, we're using gloves, but I get a little nervous sometimes with that.
So once you started, you had those first couple classes, like 3 people in them. How quickly did you think to yourself, wow, I think this is going to work? People are really, really getting excited about this. I see something special going on here.
Well, that's a good question. Probably when I got to about 6 people per class. I had made contact with local neurologists, and the people from the support group were circulating my information, brochures and business cards, and word of mouth. Once I got 12 people involved in the program in 2 different classes, one class was higher functioning than the other, I started to realize very, very quickly that this is going to be okay, and it would just take time to build more clientele. And that's happened. We're working with about 50 to 55 people right now.
how quickly did you notice a change, from that first group or so that started from those handful of classes where you saw, wow, I'm starting to see where this is making a difference for them?
That's another good question, because sometimes there were extremely small improvements. And the very first time I asked that question of a fighter and his spouse, it wasn't very long after we had started, and I said, "How is he doing?" And she said to me, "He's smiling more."
Mm-hmm.
And that just hit me between the eyes that something that small and almost insignificant could make a difference. But that always stuck with me it stuck with me for a long time.
Is it hard for you with these classes to, you don't have Parkinson's,
No.
so you have no idea really how they feel physically, mentally, emotionally. Do you find that difficult, or is it not a challenge to be able to relate to them as you're teaching and coaching them through these things?
In the beginning, I was probably intimidated by that because I didn't have Parkinson's. And some would ask me, "You don't have Parkinson's?" "No." "Well, why are you doing this?" "Because I think it's a great program, and I want to do it, and I think I have the skills to pull it off." After 3 years, I've seen, probably 80 people come through the program. Unfortunately, some folks have passed away for various complications. But I understand more now. I never claimed that I have become an expert after 3 years. I just can understand when they talk about having to take so much medication and what the medication does to them, and how difficult it is to even travel to go food shopping, let alone travel in an airplane and
Mm-hmm.
and stay in a hotel room or a motel room, or go to a hospital and go to an emergency room and not be sure if they're going to get the medication that they have to get on time. Over the past year, we've held a support group in some of my classes where once a month they talk in the class about having Parkinson's and what it means and how it affects them. And that has helped me understand even more, because people are talking about their personal experiences to their colleagues and friends. And again, I understand it. I can sympathize and empathize and cajole and sometimes joke
Mm-hmm.
with them about it, but not having it is not a detriment for me. It just helps me study more.
So I've been thinking about this, and I don't remember if it was you or someone else who told me this from years ago when you coach football. I know this might sound odd. We'll preface this by saying your head coaching record in football was not a winning record.
Less than stellar.
Yeah, less than stellar. And there's a myriad of reasons for that. However, someone told me that they thought one of the reasons that you didn't have maybe a better record as a coach was that you spent probably more time than you should have trying to get the player who wasn't very good to be good, as opposed to working on the players who are already very good to make them great. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it almost seems like, and I could understand why that might be detrimental to a team for a winning record, but it fits for this in a way. It fits for this in that you're trying to work with people who need help, and you're making them so they're more, this is going to be the wrong way to say it, but more normal again. Like they don't, like Parkinson's isn't as much of a hindrance to their lives as it is. And so, it brings me, and you kind of touched on it before, but it's why, what really made you do this? What made you what made you take this risk? You're retired, you could kick back, you can chill. What made you take this leap of faith, this risk, and say, this is something I want to do, and I'm really passionate about it?
You touched on it with the word faith, and I talked to somebody before I went to Indianapolis who was very familiar with the program, who didn't think it would make a difference in Conklin. And I didn't believe that. I believed that if I got involved, knowing the background that I had, that we could make a go of it. I never intended this program to be a moneymaker for me. I intended for this program to be there for the people who had Parkinson's. I mean, as I'm officially retired. I collect Social Security. I collected a New York State teacher's retirement. So it wasn't like I had to do this 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I do it part-time. And the impact it's had on people with Parkinson's and on me, on my family, has been tremendous. So I think that, did God put me here to do that? Well, if he did, then I'm glad he did that, because
Mm-hmm.
I have found a place where what I'm doing makes an obvious difference in people's lives. They appreciate what we do, and I'm grateful for them, because sometimes they're doing things that very hard for them to do. Something as easy as you and I would have no trouble getting on our hands and knees and getting on the floor and get up.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, they have trouble getting out of the chair in the first place. And if Rocksteady Boxing, or as we're now known as Punch Out Parkinson's Incorporated, because we're a charitable not-for-profit, if what we do can make them feel better, then, I've accomplished something good.
So where do we go from here? What's the future?
The future is kind of exciting, because we have a garage gym at Dealey Physical Therapy here in Conklin. That's 900 square feet. There's some talk that there might be an expansion coming down the road, which would be exciting. We've also been talking to some local other businesses in Broome County about opening up a second facility, particularly on the other side of the river from Conklin, and maybe in the Binghamton or Vestal area. And that would be exciting to have another partner in our program. So we're not there yet, but we've been talking to people, and there's some hope that that's going to happen. For more information about our program, like us on Facebook or call me at 607-760-4487 or Evelyn at 607-237-0148.